Well, good evening, and welcome back this week to this edition of the Leadership Edge. I'm your host, Dr. P. Ronald Wilder. Thank you so much for tuning in to this podcast. This podcast, the Leadership Edge, is dedicated to leadership, all things leadership. We just talk leadership from every aspect, every nick and corner, every angle. We don't claim to know it all. We do know a few things, and the few things we know, we talk about. And if you will take these nuggets that we talk about and apply them to your life and leadership, it will give you the edge that you need. Everybody looking for the edge. Well, you're in the right place for that leadership edge, and that's right here on the Leadership Edge podcast. God bless you. Hey, listen, before we get rolling, you know the drill. Go ahead, hit the like, hit the follow, and most of all, hit that share button. Go ahead and share the live stream, amen, so that we can spread far and wide and reach places that we normally couldn't reach. And now the next thing, go ahead and subscribe on the YouTube side to the YouTube channel, BGTV Studios YouTube. Go ahead and subscribe. Also, comment right now, wherever you're watching from. I need you to type in and say what's your name and where you're watching from. And throughout the podcast, not only my podcast, if you watch other podcasts on BGTV Studios, comment. Let the podcasters know, man, you're blessing me, sir, ma'am. I like what you're saying. This helped me. This helps us. So go ahead and use the comment box and communicate back and forth with us. Okay? Hey, thank you so much. Well, let's talk leadership. Now, last week we started talking about the making of a leader. This will be the making of a leader, part 2. And we were talking about what we call shaping activities. There's certain things God uses to shape us as leaders and to shape our character. And the first of those shaping activities was an integrity test, okay? Or an integrity check, rather, which basically is a check that God uses to evaluate our intentions to shape our character. God is always about that character of people. He's always about shaping character, okay? He wants you to have character. He wants, and the Bible talks about this a lot. It says a good name is better than what? Silver and gold, okay? See, if you were to ask most people, what do you want? I got over here a good name, and over here I got silver and gold adding up to be $100,000. Most people take the $100,000, not realizing if you got a good name, you can get the $100,000, guess what? And more. But we will take the money first because we don't see the good name bringing us what we think it should bring us. But the Bible says a good name is more valuable or better to be desired than silver and gold. Well, a good name comes from what? Good character. So God is all about character. Don't ever let nobody think you and tell you that character in leadership doesn't matter. It really does, okay? And so the integrity check is something God uses to evaluate our intentions in order to shape our character. God wants to shape our character. We gave some examples of character, of integrity checks, and they were values, which test our convictions, values which determines our conviction. Whatever your values are, that's going to determine where your convictions are. Then temptation comes to test those convictions. Persecution is another integrity check. It tests our steadfastness, our ability to stand. Loyalty comes to test our allegiance, okay? That's where we left off at. Now let's pick up right there. There's another integrity check that we call the conflict against ministry vision. Conflict against ministry vision, which tests our faith. Okay, so no matter what you're going to do, whatever vision you have, and again, this can work in any other arena, business, finance, education, athletic, government, whatever it is, every leader has vision, okay? And sometimes conflict will come against that vision. When conflict comes, it's a test of our faith. Do we believe in the vision and the God that's behind the vision, okay? So there will be there'll be conflict as an integrity test against ministry vision. Now, how does this work? Let me give you a couple of points, show you how it works. Leader gets a vision for what he wants to do in the church, in the ministry, in the company, in the business, in the school, on the athletic team, whatever it may be. He gets a vision. But all of a sudden now, this conflict arises. We call it leadership backlash. How does leadership backlash work? Leadership backlash works like this. The leader gets a vision. The followers are convinced of that vision and the direction, and so the group starts moving in that direction. But what happens is the group experiences persecution and hard times and attacks from Satan. There is backlash from the group, kind of like Moses. Everybody wanted to leave Egypt. They got tired of the hard labor. They were tired of working from sun up to sundown, making brick and mortar, working tirelessly, okay? And they prayed for years and years. And after praying, what does God do? God raises up an answer. His name is Moses. He goes to Pharaoh and says, Pharaoh, hey, God sent me to you to tell you to let my people go. Pharaoh's heart was hardened. He didn't want to let them go. And so God, through a series of plagues and miracles through Moses, finally Pharaoh said, man, these people got to go. And they all get down by the Red Sea, leaving Egypt. And they get to the Red Sea, and there's no way across. And they hear Pharaoh's army chasing them. But what does God do? God shows up like he does and makes a way out of no way. Moses raises his staff up, and the Red Sea divides. And between 2 to 4 million people, depending on who you listen to, walk through the Red Sea on dry land. When they get to the other side, Pharaoh's army starts pursuing them, coming through the Red Sea. Moses raised his hands, and the waters that divided for Israel now collapsed and drowned Pharaoh's army. Now, this is a miraculous act. As a matter of fact, this is off script. Off script. But I often say this, and I'm just going to say this while I'm talking to you. It's in a podcast I can do. There are a lot of great events in the Bible. And if the Lord gave me the privilege to say, Ronald, you can go back and experience, see any event in the Bible, what would it be? I've often thought about that question. If I can go back in time and literally be there to see it happen, any event in the Bible, after much thought and consideration, mine would be, I would want to be at this event, at the Red Sea, to see it divide, and God's people walk through on dry land, and then it comes back down and drowns Pharaoh's. That, to me, is one of the greatest miracles in the Bible. And I know Jesus, who's my Savior, love him with everything in me. There's nobody like him. And I would love to see certain events in his life, okay? But it's just something about the Red Sea. And maybe it happened because every time I go to the ocean or to the beach, I look at the ocean and the vast cataract of waters, and I think, man, they divided this thing. And you got to remember, when they divided, you can't divide. You got 2 million. If you go to the low number, you can't divide 3 feet and they walk 2 by 2. You can't go 2 by 2 and get 1 million people through in a night. That water had to divide for several miles for them to get 2 million people through there, okay? I would have loved to see that event. Just food for thought. Okay, that's just personal preference right there. You probably got another. Okay, type in the comments. What event would you like to see in the Bible? If you could go back and see any event in the Bible, what event would you see? What would you? Just one. Now you can't put two. Got to do one. This contest calls for one. And so if you send me and comment on them, we'll discuss this on our next podcast. And I'll tell people what are some of the answers I got. But just out of the cuff, if you could go back in time in the Bible to any event that's happened in the Bible, what event would you like to see? All right. So they get across the Red Sea, they get into the wilderness. And the first time they hit hard time, what happens? There is leadership backlash. Because the people start now blaming Moses. You brought us out here to die. We've been better off in Egypt. Okay? That's called leadership backlash. When the people that you're leading turn on you, when you're doing them good, you lead them into God's purpose, but because of persecution, they get distracted by the persecution and can't see the big picture. They can't see the forest for the trees. And so backlash comes. We shouldn't have never bought this property. We should have never moved into this building. We should never have made that. We should have never done this here. All of that. Been there, done that, seen it happen. Deal with pastors all the time. I see it happen. It is just a common thing for leadership backlash to happen. So if you're a leader, and in whatever arena you're in, don't think you can avoid backlash. It's going to come. And it's not nothing you done, no mistake you made. It's just, again, once the group experiences hard times and persecution and attacks from the enemy or outside sources, there's something innate in followers that they blame the leader. That's the burden of leadership, people. That's the burden of leadership. You're going to get blamed for it. What happens when this backlash comes? Well, the leader at that point is driven to seek God for affirmation. He goes back to the source to say, God, I need you to speak to me again. I know you told me to do this, but the people are rebelling. There's backlash. I need you to affirm me. He goes back to his source. And as leaders, and I'm speaking most of the pastors now and to us in spiritual leadership, when you face backlash, you got to go back to the source. You got to go back to where you got it all from. Remember Rocky? My favorite Rocky is Rocky 3, when Mr. T showed up on the scene. Hey, woman. You know, Mr. T, right? And remember the first fight, he beats Rocky to a pulp. And nobody wants Rocky to fight him again. Because even Rocky don't want to fight him again. Because as his trainer, Burgess Meredith said, he's a killer rock. He'll knock into the rock. I love that scene, right? So anyway, they get ready to fight, and Apollo comes and trains him. And what does Apollo do? He says, we're going back. He took him out of the comforts of what he'd been used to and took him back over into the neighborhood, into the gym that's raggedy with no air conditioner. He took him back to the beginning. This is what we learned at under these conditions. And this is what we're going to be developed. The same holds true as a leader. No matter what that happened, you have now expanded. You got big, nice stuff. But when that leadership backlash comes, you got to go back to the source. You got to go back to where you got it all from, and that's God. Okay? You can't go back on your wisdom, on your skills, your ability to negotiate. You can't go back on your ability to wheel and deal. You got to go back to God, and you got to get affirmation from God that he called you to do this, that he led you to do this, and that he's going to see you through it, no matter what the group thinks. So God will, once you go back to God, then what God's going to do, he's going to reveal himself. He's going to show himself. He always does it. He always affirms his leader. He'll reveal himself and show you what he intends to do. You see it clear as day. Now, the challenge comes to help everybody else to see it because they are blinded now. All they see is the persecution, the hard times, and the attacks. But God revealed to you first what he's going to do. He makes it clear that I'm going to deliver. He makes it clear I'm going to make a way. He makes it clear I am going to see you through. And what does he do with that? In doing that, he vindicates himself and the leader. Because if you question the leader, then you question the God who sent the leader and who gave the vision in the first place. So now God got to vindicate himself and the man or the woman he sent. He got to vindicate himself and the leader, and he will do it. Now, the good thing about leadership backlash is that leadership backlash, it tests a leader's perseverance. Are you going to hang in there? Are you going to stand firm? Are you going to quit? Are you going to fold up the tent and run? What are you going to do? Real leaders persevere. They take the hits, they take the blows, but they keep on leading because they understand this, my friends, is the burden of leadership. So leadership backlash tests the leader's perseverance, and it tests his clarity of vision. In other words, I'm crystal clear. I know what God said. Doesn't matter about the attack. Doesn't matter about what we're going through. It doesn't change what God has said. I'm clear. I do these movies, right? So, hey, A Few Good Men. Tom Cruise questioning Tom Cruise questioning Jack Nicholson. And Jack Nicholson talked to him. Jack said, "Are we clear? Are we clear?" And Tom Cruise says, "Crystal." Crystal clear. As a leader, you got to be crystal clear about the vision. There's no question. And leadership backlash is going to test your faith. Do you believe what God said? Do you believe what God promised? Do you believe what God told you? That's how it goes. Integrity is the foundation for effective leadership. If we don't get the integrity part right, there will not be effective leadership. Had a friend of mine told me a story once. And when he was a young pastor, he went to a certain church, the pastor. He was young, he was in his 20s. I think it was his first pastorate. And immediately he started hanging out with a couple of guys in the church and started doing things with them that he shouldn't have been doing. Things that damaged his credibility and his integrity. He would go out and he would go to parties with him and do a little drinking with him, this different thing. He's a pastor, and then preach to him on Sunday. And everything was fine. They stayed in church. They didn't leave the church. They were hanging out. They liked the guy. It was cool. But you know what happened? One of the guys, and they all became good friends. Well, three of them, they became good friends. And one of the three, his mother passed. This is the story that my friend told me. His mother passed. And she was a member of the church. So he says he kept waiting on the phone call from his partner and the family about the death since he was the pastor. So he waited on them to call him to say, she had died and, the funeral being at the church and him preaching the funeral. He said days went by and he hasn't heard from the family. He later finds out that the family had called the previous pastor who he replaced. He replaced the previous pastor because the previous pastor had retired. They didn't get rid of him. He just retired, and that's how he got the job. But in this death thing, they call that pastor. A week's gone by, and he hasn't heard from the family or his friend. He says finally he couldn't take it no more. He goes to his friend and says, hey, man. And he said, hey, what's up, man? He said, man, your mother died. I said, yeah, man. I'm sorry about your mother dying, blah, blah. He said, man, I hadn't heard from you. You hadn't called me. I've been waiting, about the funeral and what I'm going to do and all that. He said, oh, man. He said, ain't no problem, man. He said, man, listen, this is my mama. I need a real preacher. I don't need you. I had to go get me a real preacher. Now, see, think about that for a moment. Here's a guy that saw you good enough to drink with him, hang out with him. But in a crisis that his mother died, he don't view you as a preacher. He goes get a real preacher who was his former pastor. Why? Why don't he view you? Because you have compromised your integrity. So in his mind, you wasn't even a pastor. You didn't have no leadership because you had compromised your integrity. That's why you should never give up your integrity, because the people, they'll run with you. But the same ones that run with you will point the finger at you. And that's what he do. He's pointing the finger. You ain't right with God, man. You hanging out with me. You drinking like me. You running girls like me. Integrity is very effective for leadership. It must be instilled early in a leader's character. The pastors, the leaders that I lead, and the young men that I'm raising up in ministry and I'm mentoring as sons, one of the things I instill in them very early is integrity. Because in my book, The ABCs of Leadership, I think I have a whole chapter on integrity. And one of the things I say and bring out there is that once you lose your integrity, it's a long uphill road journey to try to get it back. You got to go uphill. You got to go uphill to get it back. And sometimes, in some places, you never get it back. That's why the best thing to do in integrity is never lose it. One of the saddest things that ever happened to me was I had a pastor sit in front of me once who had lost his integrity morally. And he sit there and said, man, I have lost my integrity. Because when you lose your integrity with people that put their trust in you. So you have to develop, Psalms 78:72 says this here. So he shepherded them, New American Standard Bible. So he shepherded them according to the integrity of his heart and guided them with skillful hands. Real leadership does not come easily. God uses conflict as a powerful tool in his hand to shape our character and to teach us lessons we would not learn. Conflict tests our personal maturity. Leadership does not come easy. It requires time, experience, and repeated instances of maturity processing. Integrity check. We just getting started. That's going to be a 3 and a 4 of making of a leader. So, hey, I'm not rushing through it. Let's just take time and let's talk about it. You got any questions or comments, shoot them to me, and I'll address them here on the Leadership Edge. God bless you. Hey, my time is up. As always, I thank you so much for yours. Now, listen, don't forget to visit my website, www.pronaldwilder.com. There you'll find my book, The ABCs of Leadership, which you see posted on the screen there. It's a great book, Principles for Personal Development. You'll also find a link that will take you to all of our podcasts from day one, February of last year. Every podcast is on there. You can go back and, man, you'll learn a lot of stuff. It's a college education of leadership. So go and do that. Then before you leave the website, make sure you attend the shop page. And on the shop page, you'll find all of my leadership teachings, principle of leadership, one of my favorite, the 10 Commandments of Leadership. I want to talk about that here on this podcast, but the 10 Commandments of Leadership, rules of engagement, the Maximus Principle, 7 hardest people to lead, 7 traps that'll bring down. You can download them, and there's a cost. Now listen, but the best buy on my site is this bundle package, that everything is on that web page is on this jump drive, over 30 leadership teachings, and you can get them for half of what you would pay on the website if you bought them individually. So this is your best buy. You can order this on the website, and you'll get it, the bundle package. You just stick it in your device, and you can listen to it. It's a jump drive that goes into your device, and you can pull me up, okay? Now, listen, also, before we go, don't forget to be a supporter of BGTV Studios. Man, we need your support. This is a great venue, a great platform that God has raised up. And so we want you to be a supporter of BGTV Studios. There are several ways you can do that. They're going to pop on the screen. They're right there. There are 3 ways to give. You can do the website. You can do Venmo. You can do Cash App. There are the QR codes there. Scan them and be a blessing. You can do it one of 2 ways. You can give a good one-time offering, or better yet, the best way, pray to the Holy Spirit about becoming a monthly partner and give something monthly. It is good soil, good ground, and God will bless you as you help spread the kingdom message through BGT Studios across the land. Listen, my time is up. I got to go. Thank you for yours. We'll pick up next week. This is your host, Dr. P. Ronald Wilder, signing out by telling you that leadership matters and leaders lead. I'll see you on next Tuesday. Good night.